The plane door just opened. A young man wearing a formal suit jumped down directly below. He successfully parachuted down in front of a company, only to see the young man raise his head to look at the tall building in front of him and then adjust his expensive suit. Matan was confident that even without his father's help, he could succeed in his own way. Matan wore a custom-made suit and a billion-dollar watch. Then he walked into his rival's company with his head held high. Entering the office, Matan quietly found a seat. He thought to himself that this was the feeling that a normal new employee had. When coming to a new company, of course, he needed to get to know his colleagues first. But Matan had a habit of putting his hands behind his back, so when he started talking to his colleagues, it looked like he was giving orders to his subordinates, because he was a true chaebol by nature. But Matan did not want to live dependent on his father, so he gave up his right to inherit billions of dollars to work for Heir and learn life experience. The next day, he did not parachute from the plane anymore, but chose to take the bus like other office workers. He looked at the crowded bus next to him and suddenly felt emotional. If he always lived under his father's protection, he would not be able to experience this kind of life. Then Matan pressed the bell to stop the bus, but the driver told him not to press the bell anymore. Only then did he remember that he had booked the entire bus. Taking advantage of his free time, Matan quietly went to the vending machine. His colleagues hid to the side and peeped. Matan opened his wallet. Inside were all large bills. He read the notice and saw that the vending machine only accepted small change. Matan started pressing the bell randomly. Unexpectedly, his colleagues misunderstood that he had no money but still wanted to drink coffee. Suddenly, Matan turned back to look at the sky and told his parents that he was fine. His colleagues were shocked and thought that his parents had passed away. Suddenly, they felt sorry for him. They had no idea that Matan's rich parents were following him with a drone. When it was time to get off work, the secretary came to pick up Matan. This scene was accidentally seen by Deputy Head of Department WY. The secretary wanted to invite Matan to go with him, but he didn't want to. He took out his wallet and asked the secretary to change some small change for him. After the secretary received the money, he still insisted on taking Matan home. Deputy Head of Department Y saw this and misunderstood that this orphan boy was involved with gangsters. As a superior in the company, Deputy Head of Department Y couldn't help but help Matan. He grabbed a handful of dirt and stepped forward, swinging his arm to throw it at the secretary. Then he hugged Matan and laughed. He comforted Matan and took Matan to a snack shop. Seeing the young man not eating anything, Deputy Head of Department Y felt very strange. Matan said that he had never eaten snacks before, making Deputy Head of Department Y think that he had no money to buy food. Deputy Head of Department was so touched that he wanted to cry. He felt that Matan was too pitiful. Then Deputy Head of Department Y asked Matan where he lived. Matan said that he lived in a small house. After listening, Deputy Head of Department Y sincerely advised him that he was still a young man and it was okay to live a hard life. When Deputy Head of Department Y first came to Seoul, he also lived in a very small place, but now he has moved to a bigger apartment. Matan seemed to have learned a lot. He returned to his small room and looked around. Indeed, compared to his seniors in the company, he still had to work harder. The next day, Matan tried a street stall for the first time. Unexpectedly, he took one bite and was surprised by the taste of this dish. Matan quickly asked the owner if this delicious dish contained any secret recipe. Unexpectedly, the owner said that it only required a little skill and diligence. Matan silently nodded and remembered. Suddenly, a drunk girl named Kanmi walked in. The secretary quickly stopped her and said the place was fully booked, but Kanmi ignored him. She used her hand to push him away. Then Kanmi sat down and asked the owner to bring out the chicken gizzards, but Matan had ordered all the chicken gizzards. The secretary saw that Kanmi was drunk and starting to go crazy, so he quickly walked over and told her to go home. Unexpectedly, Kanmi grabbed him and threw him away. When Matan saw the girl walking towards him, he quickly picked up the table and blocked it in front of him. Kanmi used one hand to knock the table away and then sat in front of him. Matan was almost so scared that he cried, but the aroma of the chicken gizzard in Matan's mouth attracted Kanmi's attention. When Matan saw Kanmi slowly approaching him, he had to cover her mouth with chicken gizzard. The chicken gizzard fell on the ground had saved Matan. After finishing the chicken gizzard, Kanmi left with satisfaction. She didn't forget to bow and thank Matan. The next day, Kanmi woke up drunk in the bathroom. She went to the company and saw Matan there. She didn't think he was the new employee. Kanmi quickly covered her face with her hair and secretly hoped he wouldn't recognize her. Unexpectedly, Matan called her name. Kanmi didn't have time to think about why Matan knew her name. She panicked and covered her hair and found an excuse to run away, but Kanmi clumsily dropped something. Seeing the scene in front of her made Matan confirm that he didn't mistake person. Kanmi was the girl from last night. Kanmi almost forgot all her memories, but she still remembered that there was a certain pair of lips. Kanmi was shocked and thought that she had kissed Matan, but she wasn't sure if it was real or a dream. Kanmi's best friend said that she had a way to confirm. She told Kanmi Kanmi to sit in front of her. Then she took out her work card and waved it in front of Kanmi. After she snapped her fingers, Kanmi fell asleep immediately. In the dream, Kanmi and Matan had already developed to the point of buying a house. The best friends were shocked when they heard that the two were so close that they were living together. Then, they saw Kanmi puckering her lips and kissing forward. Kanmi was immediately beaten up by her best friend. Tonight, the whole room went out to eat. Kanmi was worried that Matan would recognize her, so she decided to wear a mask, which made her superiors angry. Her superiors scolded Kanmi and made her take it off. As soon as Kanmi took off her mask, she saw Matan sitting right across from her. Kanmi quickly picked up the menu and pretended to order. Unexpectedly, her colleague grabbed the menu to order. Kanmi had no choice but to raise her beer glass in front of her. Matan reached out to put the beer glass aside, but their hand strength was different. Matan had no choice but to call Kanmi's name, but she still pretended that nothing had happened. Matan said that after what happened yesterday, he would always remember her. Then Matan called out Kanmi's name loudly, causing the colleague to almost find out. Kanmi followed Matan out in confusion. Unexpectedly, Matan took a letter out of his pocket. Kanmi suddenly felt embarrassed. She thought it was a love letter, so she happily accepted it. Then Kanmi got in a taxi to go home. She eagerly opened the letter to read it, but the letter contained details about the story at the roadside restaurant last night. It was not a love letter at all, but a letter in which Matan asked her to pay compensation. Kanmi suddenly burst into tears. Before, she thought that Matan would take care of her. Kanmi unconsciously cried. She bit her fist. It was because of him that she was in debt. At this time, because she didn't have enough money to pay compensation, Kanmi decided to help Matan with the housework to pay off the debt. She had just finished and was about to go home when suddenly a bolt of lightning struck the sky. Kanmi's stomach also growled because of hunger. She was a little embarrassed. She didn't expect her stomach to growl at this time, but Matan didn't care at all. He even smiled and invited her to stay for dinner. When Kanmi heard that it was free, she accepted. She really liked free meals. Matan clapped his hands, but no one answered. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. He was embarrassed to remember that this wasn't his house, so there was no waiter to bring food, so they decided to order fried chicken to eat at home. Kanmi said that she wanted to lose weight, but her hand picked up a piece of fried chicken. Seeing Kanmi eating so vulgarly made a person with a cleanliness disorder like Matan want to go crazy. He couldn't help but ask her if she wanted to wipe her mouth with a tissue. Unexpectedly, she used her hand to wipe her mouth. Matan put on gloves and took out a tissue. He was serious, as if he was performing surgery, but suddenly Matan looked at Kanmi's face. His heart beat faster for no reason. At this moment, the door opened. Matan's mother came to visit him. His mother felt that this scene was a bit unusual. Kanmi reacted in time. She quickly said that she was just Matan's colleague. At this time, Matan told Kanmi to pack her things and she could leave. Unexpectedly, his mother was even more surprised when she heard the two words things. She thought that the two of them had started living together. Her son wanted to move out because of this girl. Matan's mother immediately picked up a bottle of water and threw it at Kanmi. Matan looked at the water stain on the ground and wanted to go crazy, but his mother refused to give up. She started aiming at the target. Kanmi dodged left and right. Suddenly, Matan stood up to block her. Kanmi looked at this sturdy back and was almost moved to tears. Kanmi suddenly felt that Matan was extremely handsome. Who would have thought that he would say that he was just afraid that his carpet would get wet and smell bad? Then Matan quickly ran to the side. He took out a rag and started mopping the floor. Matan's mother was extremely angry. She told her secretary to go buy kimchi and bring it back. When Matan heard about kimchi, he threw the rag aside. Kanmi was touched again because this man was angry on her behalf. He looked very elegant. Unexpectedly, the next second, he angrily said that the smell of kimchi was very difficult to clean. At this moment, Matan's mother seemed to have calmed down. She sat down on the sofa and apologized to Kanmi. Then she ordered her secretary to take out a paper bag and told Kanmi to take it. She quickly waved her hand to refuse, but her body unconsciously rushed towards it. Kanmi tried to restrain herself from taking the paper bag. She had to save face. Matan walked over and told Kanmi to take this money. She could use it to pay off her debt. Unexpectedly, his mother stood up when she heard the two words, pay off debt. She thought Kanmi was the kind of despicable girl who would approach her son for money, so she sent her secretary to buy kimchi. Under her mother's threat, Matan could only tell her the truth. Matan's mother looked at Kanmi with a gentle expression and asked Kanmi. Then she turned to look at her son and blamed him for making this girl do hard work just for this small amount of money. How could she become the owner of the power group? This sentence attracted Kanmi's attention. Matan panicked and told his mother that he could not reveal his identity. She quickly took out a handkerchief to wipe her sweat. Unexpectedly, the handkerchief had the power group logo printed on it. Kanmi had also seen it in time. Matan's mother quickly threw the handkerchief away and said that she had picked it up on the ground earlier. Matan quickly continued. He took out his handkerchief and gave it to his mother, saying that she should not pick up things on the ground and use them again. Unexpectedly, Unexpectedly, this handkerchief also had the group logo printed on it. The two of them had a hard time fooling Kan-mi. After that, everyone went out. Matan's mother, out of habit, invited Kan-mi to ride in her car. Kan-mi was surprised by this luxurious car. When Matan's mother saw this, she quickly said that this was a used car she bought. Her family had 3 used cars. Matan looked at his mother helplessly. He hoped that she would be quiet. Matan quickly pulled Kan-mi to another place. The two of them watched the car leave before they dared to breathe a sigh of relief. Hopefully, Matan's identity had not been revealed. Unexpectedly, the car suddenly stopped. Kan-mi turned around and asked Matan if he was from the power group. It turned out that the driver had told her everything in the car. Matan felt extremely hopeless with his family. This girl suddenly felt something strange under her shoes. She lifted her foot to look, and it turned out to be a spider. Then, the two of them quickly hugged each other and fell down together. At this moment, another girl appeared. The girl looked at the position of the two of them and immediately felt embarrassed. He started to panic. He pushed the girl on top of him down, but it was too late. Hae-young turned around and left. San-sik's mood exploded at this moment because Hae-young was the person he had liked for the past 5 years. It turned out that San-sik and Na-rae were colleagues in the same room. Coincidentally, the two of them became neighbors. As a result, the same misunderstanding happened. The next day when she arrived at company, Sang-sik pulled Na-rae to a corner and asked her to explain yesterday's misunderstanding to Hae-young. Na-rae was extremely angry after hearing that. What did the two of them have to do with her? But Sang-sik couldn't let it go so easily. He said that it was because Na-rae suddenly jumped on him that the misunderstanding happened. Na-rae wanted to explain this, so she lifted her shirt to show Sang-sik that she was really allergic to spiders. But at this moment, Hae-young opened the door and walked in. She apologized for disturbing the two of them. After saying that, Hae-young turned around and left. Sang-sik wanted to run after her to explain, but it was too late. At this moment, Sang-sik thought of something. Suddenly, Na-rae moved next to his house and suddenly took off her clothes in front of him. Could it be that Na-rae liked him? Na-rae was furious when she saw Sang-sik's delusions. She didn't want to say anything more, so she left. Na-rae looked for Hae-young and explained that she had nothing to do with Sang-sik. Unexpectedly, Hae-young said that she didn't misunderstand anything. Na-rae wondered why Hae-young suddenly left yesterday. Hae-young said that her boyfriend said he was free. Na-rae suddenly said that if Hae-young already had a boyfriend, then what was Sang-sik to her? Hae-young smiled and said that Sang-sik was a good person. He always invited her out to eat or have coffee and even took out the trash and cleaned up dog poop at her house. Na-rae felt helpless after hearing that. She felt that explaining was useless. When Na-rae returned to the office, she told Sang-sik that Hae-young didn't misunderstand anything. Sang-sik finally smiled. Na-rae said bluntly that Hae-young had no feelings for him. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik was extremely angry. He thought Na-rae was deliberately bad-mouthing Hae-young because Na-rae liked him. She did that. Na-rae really didn't want to say anything more to Sang-sik because he wanted to prove Hae-young's feelings for him. Sang-sik decided to take action tonight. Sang-sik dressed up as a teddy bear and came before Hae-young. He handed her the bouquet of flowers in his hand. Then Sang-sik prepared to kneel down on one knee to confess his love. At this moment, Hae-young's boyfriend walked over. Hae-young suddenly thought that the teddy bear was Sang-sik. Sang-sik quickly denied it. Unexpectedly, the ring box fell to the ground. Hae-young's boyfriend saw it and asked Sang-sik if he was selling the ring. Then he looked at Sang-sik's outstretched fingers and guessed that the ring cost 80,000 won. When Hae-young's boyfriend was about to take out money to pay, Sang-sik turned around and ran away. Hae-young picked up the ring. She saw Sang-sik's initials on it. Hae-young seemed to have understood something. The next day, Hae-young pulled Sang-sik aside and said that she wanted to talk to him. Sang-sik sat on the chair, panicking and worried, but Hae-young revealed her hands with the ring that Sang-sik gave her. Then Hae-young grabbed Sang-sik's hand and said that she already had a lover, but it was okay because Hae-young could still love Sang-sik. After thinking carefully, Sang-sik went to find Hae-young again. He asked how many lovers she really had. Hae-young raised her hand full of rings. At that moment, 4 men walked in at the same time. Hae-young smiled and said that tonight the two of them should go out to eat together. Sang-sik was really disappointed. At this time, Matan was preparing to threaten Kan-mi when she knew that he was from a rich family. No matter what Kan-mi heard yesterday, she had to forget it all. Unexpectedly, while Kan-mi was swatting mosquitoes, she accidentally cracked the table, scaring Matan. The venomous words he had prepared were not spoken out loud. Matan waited until Kan-mi left before he immediately took out his phone to call someone. Kan-mi rushed in and interrupted him. Then she told him that even if she didn't say anything, he wouldn't be able to hide his identity because his rich aura was very obvious. Sooner or later, everyone would be able to see it. Kan-mi smiled wickedly. She promised to keep this secret. In return, Matan would have to erase all her debts. Facing this oppressive aura, Matan had no other choice. After that, they went to lunch together. Kan-mi found out that Matan didn't lick the lid of his yogurt, so she spoke to him seriously, saying that he was a rich kid just by looking at it. Then, she started to demonstrate for him. Matan's expression was a little confused. In order not to reveal his identity, he would try his best. Deputy head of department Department Y walked over and frowned, telling Matan to stop licking. Deputy Head of Department Y saw that Matan was pitiful, so he even gave Matan his yogurt. Matan was stunned, not understanding what was happening. After work, Kanmi happily sat down to eat grilled meat with her close friends. Unexpectedly, Matan sat right behind her. After finishing eating, Kanmi walked on the street, but she kept feeling like someone was following her. Kanmi swore to Matan that she wasn't drunk this time, so she definitely wouldn't reveal his secret. Matan breathed a sigh of relief. He turned around, got into his secretary's car, and left. But before Matan could fasten his seatbelt, he saw Kanmi standing on the main road asking everyone if they knew who the successor of Power Group was. Matan was furious. Then Matan turned to ask his secretary if there was any way to make Kanmi disappear from the face of the earth. At this moment, Kanmi suddenly rushed forward, startling Matan and the secretary. Kanmi is truly an untrustworthy person. The next day, when Matan went to work, he unexpectedly met President Gauss in the elevator. When the elevator arrived, Deputy Head of Department Y bowed to the president, but he saw Matan and the president taking a photo. Deputy Head of Department Y angrily called Matan to the office and asked him if he was sober and why did Matan dare to take a photo with the president. Matan looked at Deputy Head of Department Y's broken and smoking phone, and Matan offered to compensate him with another one. But Deputy Head of Department Y's face showed pain, saying that Matan was in such a miserable state, so where would he get the money to compensate? In order to not reveal his identity, Matan went to find Kanmi again. Kanmi told Matan that in the company he had to be humble and be normal like everyone else so that no one would doubt his identity. Unexpectedly, Samsik heard that Matan wanted to be humble and immediately got angry. If a new employee did not show himself, he would not be respected. Matan was deep in thought, but before he could decide who to listen to, Deputy Head of Department Y asked him if he had finished his work. Kanmi frantically signaled to be humble. Matan quickly bowed down, but he saw Samsik signaling to show himself. Matan was stuck between the two, which made Deputy Head of Department Y extremely angry. Matan felt a headache. He just wanted to be an ordinary person, but it was too difficult. It turned out that Matan did not want to take over the family business easily. He looked at his father seriously and said that he had not earned a single penny since he was born, so he was not qualified to inherit the Power Group. Unexpectedly, his father gave him a bill and said that he had already earned 10 million won. But this was not the life Matan wanted, so he joined a competitor company. Matan wanted to succeed on his own, but now he was facing a difficult problem, which was how to hide his identity. Matan walked anxiously to the coffee machine of Deputy Head of Department Y. He heard his colleague say that if he wanted to drink coffee, he had to buy it here. Matan had never drunk packaged coffee before, so he was a little worried that it would be hard to drink. Unexpectedly, as soon as he drank it, he felt the rich and delicate flavor. Matan did not expect that ordinary people could also enjoy such a delicacy. His colleagues were struggling with the AI speaker taken from the Power Group. The male colleague looked down on it. He thought it was a waste of money to buy something so trivial. Matan could not help but say that this was the ambitious product of the Power Group. Then, he started to introduce it non-stop. His colleagues were extremely surprised. Why did Matan understand it so well? At this time, a female colleague said that this speaker could distinguish the voice of President Beck of the Power Group. Matan laughed and denied that this product did not have that function. Unexpectedly, the AI speaker directly recognized Matan as the chairman, making him very helpless. A colleague was testing the speaker when suddenly there was a problem. The speaker that had just started playing music could not be turned off. Matan saw this and quickly went over to check. Unexpectedly, when Matan spoke, the speaker immediately said hello to the chairman. Matan panicked and quickly grabbed the speaker and prepared to turn it off. Unexpectedly, the speaker kept introducing Matan as the heir to the Power Group. Fortunately, Kanmi ran over and punched the speaker, breaking it into pieces. The colleagues standing around were stunned, not understanding what was happening. Matan was extremely touched. He approached Kanmi and said that he did not know how to continue living here, but now it seemed like he had found happiness. Kanmi thought Matan was talking about her. It turned out that the joy he was talking about was the can of coffee she was drinking. After work, Deputy Head of Department Y asked Matan to go take a hot bath. Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly dove into the water and said that no one would enter a public bath wearing underwear. If the boss here found out, he would definitely be kicked out. Matan's expression was awkward. Did he have to do this to be like a normal person? Unexpectedly, Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly stood up and asked if Matan had never been to a sauna before. Matan was afraid of being exposed, so he had no choice but to obediently listen. But Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly wanted to scrub Matan's back. Hearing a loud noise from behind, Matan felt like a prisoner about to be sentenced to death. Deputy Head of Department Y rubbed hard. Matan's scalp felt numb. A few seconds later, Matan frowned. This feeling was really good. His back felt both painful and pleasant. The dead skin white on his body fell off and piled up. This was was a pleasure that even exfoliating with Himalayan pink salt couldn't compare to. Matan's eyes were open. Deputy Head of Department Y's scream woke Matan up. Deputy Head of Department Y said it was his turn now. Matan had no choice but to quietly turn around and start scrubbing Deputy Head of Department Y's back. But Matan kept fumbling, making Deputy Head of Department Y unhappy. Indeed, scrubbing someone else's back also required experience. After that, the two of them went to eat together. But when Matan saw the giant smelly soybean soup in front of him, he started to get goosebumps. Deputy Head of Department Y felt strange and asked if Matan's mother had never cooked soybean soup for him. Matan said he had never eaten his mother's cooking. Deputy Head of Department Y felt very sorry for him. Poor Matan had not even eaten his mother's cooking before he had to leave her. Then the deputy director continued, saying that it wasn't Matan's fault that he didn't have parents. He would gradually teach Matan everything. Matan frowned, thinking that he had a private chef at home, so of course his mother had never cooked for him before. Before Matan could think further, Deputy Head of Department Y carefully mixed the soup with rice and then fed it to him. Matan showed a face of suffering and endurance, but suddenly a strange flavor spread throughout his taste buds. Matan did not expect it to be so delicious, so he ate it all deliciously. The two were discussing work when Kanmi challenged Matan to a game of rock paper scissors. As a result, Matan was the loser. He could not believe it. Matan was the sole heir of the power group. He was both rich and smart, but he lost this game. Just now, it was Matan's bad luck, not that he did not know how to play. At this time, a male colleague came over to invite everyone to play the game. The loser would be beaten. Sang-sik teased Matan, saying that he did not expect someone to play 14 games and lose everything like him. At this moment, the AI speaker also uttered sarcastic words. Matan was ridiculed by his colleagues, but he had to accept it. But he didn't expect that an AI speaker would dare to mock him. Matan was determined to take revenge. Matan looked in the mirror at the wound on his back. His colleagues' mocking words echoed in his ears. Matan used to dominate the horse racing track. Even boat racing was no match for him. Yet Matan lost these games. He took out his phone and called Kanmi, asking her if she wanted to pay off all her debts. He wanted her to appear in front of him immediately within 3 minutes. Unexpectedly, as soon as he hung up the phone, the doorbell rang. Kanmi appeared in front of his house in a coach's outfit. Matan was bewildered when Kanmi suddenly asked him loudly if he wanted to become the king of games. Matan immediately answered loudly that he wanted to. Then Kanmi threw the outfit and handed it to him. The grueling training began. Quick hands and eyes, climbing the stairs, and rock, paper, scissors. Matan had never tried so hard in his life. He tried so hard that his face turned red, and so Matan practiced persistently all night. The first rays of morning sunlight shone into the room. Tangmi saw Matan nodding off sleepily, so she let him play rock, paper, scissors again. As a result, Matan won this time too. The two excitedly shook hands and said they would be the champions. In the elevator, the colleagues were discussing who would go to the sauna with Deputy Head of Department Y. At this moment, Matan sensitively seized the opportunity. He wanted to play quick hands and eyes to choose the loser. Matan squatted down, thinking to himself that he had won, but the result was that in the bathroom, Matan painfully closed his eyes and rubbed Deputy Head of Department Y's back. It turned out that the new person in the room had no right to use the game to make a choice. While working, Nare's stomach hurt terribly. She wanted to go to the bathroom, but her colleagues kept gathering around her and asking her about one thing after another. Suddenly, her colleagues' faces showed signs of discomfort because they had just smelled someone's fart. Nare looked at her colleagues' expressions in embarrassment. She felt like she didn't know where to hide to get rid of the shame. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik smiled right after that. He had helped her admit her mistake. Her colleagues cursed Sang-sik, but he didn't care. Sang-sik silently put the roll of paper in Nare's hand. Nare looked at Sang-sik, who was staring at the computer. She felt that this hateful man was also really cute. When she got home that night, Nare's mind was still filled with the image of Sang-sik protecting her this morning. Even the TV in front of her seemed to be showing the plot of the two of them. When it was about to show the drama scene, the doorbell suddenly rang. Nare opened the door and saw Sang-sik. It turned out that he bought some pork belly at the supermarket, so he conveniently gave her a box. Unexpectedly, this action made Nare feel very unusual. She slammed the door and asked her close friends. Nare sent a message to 2 friends and asked them how to determine whether the other person likes her or not. Her close friends quickly gave the answer that whenever she looked at him, she would see him looking at her. Sure enough, Sang-sik was secretly looking at Nare. She panicked and covered her face with the document, but Nare still saw Sang-sik's eyes. She was startled and accidentally dropped the pen. Nare quickly bent down to pick it up. She comforted herself that it was just a coincidence. Sang-sik told Nare that it was really beautiful. Nare shyly opened her eyes to look at him. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik pointed at the Mars lamp in her hand. It turned out that he was praising it, but at this moment, Nare's mind was filled with what her best friend said last night, that after complimenting her on her beauty, he would change the subject. Nare's expression suddenly became serious. She couldn't bear to directly refuse him, so she gave him the Mars lantern in her hand. Sang-sik held her hand and thanked her profusely. Na-rae thought that he was trying to get close to her. After thinking for a while, she decided to tell him clearly that she thanked him for liking her, but if Sang-sik didn't want to be hurt again, they should stop here. Sang-sik thought that Na-rae regretted it and wanted to get the Mars lantern back. This made her extremely embarrassed. Na-rae angrily went to find her two best friends. She told them that Sang-sik only said nonsense things that made her upset. Kang-mi smiled mysteriously and said that love is like a car accident. It comes when it likes. So there are people who, when love comes, will fall into a denial phase, absolutely denying their feelings. Kang-mi believes that Na-rae has fallen into this phase. To confirm whether it is true or not, the first thing is that people will always do the same actions as the person they like. Na-rae immediately remembers that recently she has been wearing the same clothes as Sun-sik. The two of them look very much like a couple. Even the movements of crossing their legs and rubbing their necks are similar. Then, Kang-mi continues to talk about the second principle, which is the artery, the scene where mammals will unconsciously reveal their fragile weak parts to the person they like to show that they trust and are close to that person. In Na-rae's mind, images from the past continue to flash, all of which are exactly the same. At this time, Kang-mi continues to talk about the last thing, which is the navel principle. When talking, Na-rae will always unconsciously turn her body towards the other person. Na-rae confirms that she loves Sang-sik. That day, she got drunk and accidentally broke her high heels, so Sang-sik enthusiastically insisted on carrying her home. Unexpectedly, he had only taken a few steps when he heard Hae-young calling. As a result, he made Na-rae fall to the ground. She was extremely angry. Na-rae's pale arms could no longer move. Hearing the doctor say it was late, Na-rae's face became gloomy. She thought she was going to die. It turned out that they were just too late, affecting the doctor's shift. When leaving the hospital room, Na-rae scolded Sang-sik that ever since she moved next door to his house, she had only encountered bad luck. Sang-sik quickly apologized and kindly took out a pair of slippers. Na-rae suddenly stopped being angry when Sang-sik showed her such concern. Unexpectedly, the slippers he brought her were massage slippers. Na-rae wore Sang-sik's leather shoes. The two of them returned home together. Sang-sik kindly held the key to help her open the door. He was also worried that she would be inconvenient to be alone while she was injured. Na-rae suddenly panicked. She couldn't resist now. If this man suddenly harassed her, she wouldn't know what to do. While she was lost in thought, the nanny that Sang-sik was looking for arrived. Na-rae was furious when she saw the nanny, a beautiful girl like her. Sang-sik could trust Aziz to take care of her, but Sang-sik said that Aziz used to work as a nurse in a hospital, so he would definitely take good care of her. The next day, when Aziz finished making grilled meat, the smell immediately made Na-rae crave it. He put the grilled meat in her mouth. It was really delicious. Suddenly, Na-rae felt that Aziz's tone sounded like he was talking to a pet. Na-rae hurriedly asked which hospital Aziz worked at, and as she expected, he worked at a veterinary hospital. Na-rae angrily scolded Aziz for daring to treat her like a dog. After work, Sang-sik came to visit Na-rae, still carrying fried chicken in his hand. But Sang-sik felt something strange when he looked at Na-rae. After Sang-sik fed Na-rae fried chicken, he kindly brought a cup of water. Unexpectedly, Na-rae lit the water continuously. This act of drinking water made Sang-sik unable to hold back his laughter. Na-rae looked at Sang-sik with a strange look and asked him what he was laughing at. The next day, Aziz brought a bunch of bags. They were all pet supplies. But he suddenly remembered that he had left something at the supermarket, so Aziz hurriedly ran out. Na-rae went to look at a pile of things, then she turned around to chew on the toy, but she accidentally picked up a bank card with the name Lee Sang-sik. It turned out that the reason why Aziz had taken good care of her these past few days and bought her so many good things was because Sang-sik had spent his money to buy them. After Na-rae knew the truth, she felt confused. When Sang-sik finished work, he was eager to go home immediately, but his colleagues dragged him out to drink. Sang-sik had a hard time finishing his drink. He hurried home and saw the bank card on the table. It was obvious that Na-rae knew everything. Na-rae angrily told Sang-sik that he thought she would be happy doing that. Sang-sik wanted to explain, but Na-rae smelled alcohol on him. Na-rae thought Sang-sik broke her arm, but he happily went out to eat and drink. So the more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Na-rae stood up and wanted to chase Sang-sik away, but he was too drunk. Sang-sik begged Na-rae to calm down. He took responsibility for himself, but every time he saw Hae-young, Sang-sik couldn't control himself. Na-rae started to fantasize again. Na-rae panicked and chased Sang-sik away. Only then did Sang-sik remember that Na-rae still had to take medicine, so no matter what she said, he had to give her the medicine. Na-rae looked at Sang-sik like that. Her heart was in turmoil. After Sang-sik gave Na-rae the medicine, he turned to hold her hand. This time, Sang-sik sincerely apologized to Na-rae. He had been worried about her all day. His colleagues also asked Sang-sik what had happened, but he didn't know how to answer. Looking at Sang-sik in front of him, Na-rae suddenly became emotional. She wanted the two of them to clear things up. Before Sang-sik could understand what Na-rae meant, she suddenly kissed him on the lips. Sang-sik looked at Na Rei in surprise. He still didn't understand what had just happened. Na Rei sighed and said Sang-sik was really useless. Ma-tan was being very serious when a spy appeared next to him. This morning, his rich father suddenly told him everything he did at Gauss. So that means someone must report all of Ma-tan's actions to him. Ma-tan thought for a long time but couldn't figure out who it was. Deputy head of Department Y always acted very ostentatiously towards Ma-tan. He was so kind that he was most likely creating a cover to hide the truth. As for Sang-sik, Ma-tan thought that such a fool couldn't be an insider, but it was also possible that he was pretending. Manager Ma lost all his money in the stock market, so money would be a motivation for a needy person like him. Manager Sung always had a cold appearance. Maybe this was just her pretense. Ma-tan looked around the meeting room and felt that everyone could be a suspect. After the meeting ended, Ma-tan was about to tell his secretary to investigate when he accidentally heard Kan-mi talking on the phone. Ma-tan started to suspect her again. At this time, Kan-mi suddenly discovered that Ma-tan was eavesdropping on her. He could only pretend that he had just arrived, but Kan-mi seemed to be panicking. She hurriedly pushed the door open and walked out. Ma-tan recalled what had happened since they met. Kan-mi's acting was awkward and their meeting was too coincidental. This possibility was very high. Ma-tan picked up the phone and asked the other party to prepare all the information about Kan-mi for him within 3 minutes. Ma-tan sat in the car and opened Kan-mi's resume. This was when she was losing weight. Kan-mi knew many different martial arts such as judo, taekwondo, and aikido. In the experience column, the content was all related to her internship at Power. Sure enough, all the clues showed that Kan-mi was related to Ma-tan's father. The secretary timidly reminded Ma-tan that not everything with the word power on it belonged to his family. Ma-tan glared at the secretary. The most important thing was that Kan-mi had to send money to her grandmother every month. Someone who was short of money like her would definitely have more motivation to earn money. Sure enough, everything matched. Ma-tan guessed that Kan-mi would definitely contact his father at 8 o'clock tonight. The secretary and Ma-tan carefully followed behind Kan-mi. The two of them thought they had followed them very discreetly and perfectly, but in the end, Kan-mi still discovered them. In the end, Ma-tan had to get out of the car and chase her himself. He chased her to a small alley. Unexpectedly, there were 4 fierce thugs. Ma-tan whistled and pretended that nothing happened. He wanted to sneak past them to escape, but he was stopped. The thugs complimented that his clothes looked very classy. Then they surrounded Ma-tan and stripped him of all his clothes. Ma-tan revealed his identity, but of course the thugs didn't believe that he was the son of the chairman of Power Group. Ma-tan walked down the street in a daze. Finally, Ma-tan found Kan-mi. He had just called out to her when suddenly his pants fell down. Kan-mi thought Ma-tan was a pervert, so she hit him. Kan-mi lowered her head to look, and unexpectedly, it was Ma-tan. She quickly sat down and patted his face. Kan-mi asked Ma-tan what he was doing here. Then she gave him a green tracksuit to change into. Kan-mi told Ma-tan that there were a lot of strange people around here. At this time, Ma-tan looked at Kan-mi, and before she could understand, she was about to lead him away. Unexpectedly, the thugs from before suddenly appeared again. Ma-tan quickly pointed at them and showed Kan-mi that they were the ones who robbed his clothes. The thugs of course didn't know Kan-mi's fighting ability. They saw that Ma-tan was too easy to bully, so they also wanted to snatch the things in Kan-mi's hands. The two of them were fighting back and forth when suddenly a mosquito racket flew out of the bag. Kan-mi angrily said that if her newly bought mosquito racket broke, they would pay the price. Ma-tan quickly hid behind Kan-mi, but he still didn't feel safe enough, so Ma-tan hugged the electric hole. Kan-mi rushed forward. She gently dealt with the thugs. Then Kan-mi grabbed the girl on the opposite side, which surprised Ma-tan. Ma-tan watched Kan-mi show off her power in dealing with the bad guys, and Ma-tan was stunned by her charisma. He ran quickly to Kan-mi. Unexpectedly, 2 motorbikes suddenly appeared. They were the thugs' backup. Kan-mi grabbed Ma-tan and urged him to run away. Today was the first time Ma-tan went on a business trip with Sang-sik. When preparing to leave, Sang-sik, who was in charge of driving, politely said that it would be a long time before they arrived, so Ma-tan could rest for a while. Unexpectedly, Ma-tan lay down, which made Sang-sik dissatisfied. He said that although he didn't want to use his position to oppress the newcomer, logically, when the superior was driving, Ma-tan sitting in the passenger seat had the responsibility to talk to him. Ma-tan suddenly woke up and felt that he was being a bit rude, so he decided to sit in the back, making Sang-sik even angrier. He felt like he was taking his boss on a business trip. Sang-sik pretended to cough, but Ma-tan didn't even bother to look. After a while, Ma-tan returned to the passenger seat. Ma-tan looked at Sang-sik, who was yawning because he was sleepy, so he asked Sang-sik if he needed him to call a driver to drive instead. Sang-sik laughed and said that their business trip allowance wasn't enough to pay for a hired driver, but Ma-tan said that the driver he called was free, so Sang-sik agreed. So Ma-tan called his secretary. Unexpectedly, the secretary said that the chairman had ordered that as long as Ma-tan hadn't returned to Power Group, he shouldn't expect to receive any support from his family. Ma-tan suddenly felt a bit scared. Sang-sik thought Ma-tan was bragging. Young people always like to show show off so Sang-sik could understand. At this time the two of them arrived at the partner company to prepare for a meeting. Unexpectedly, a foreign VIP guest arrived. As soon as he saw him, he said Ma-tan was a prince. The VIP guest also said that he had seen Ma-tan on TV. Ma-tan was a bit startled. Ma-tan quickly greeted him in German. Ma-tan said that he came here as an employee of the Gauss Group, not as the heir of the Power Group, so Ma-tan hoped that he would not reveal Ma-tan's true identity. The VIP guest thought that Ma-tan was filming a spy boss show, but he still agreed to help Ma-tan keep it a secret. Ma-tan breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly said that he had met this guest before when he was traveling abroad. He did not expect that today they would have the chance to meet again. Did not expect that at this time the VIP guest would say that he did not know Ma-tan at all. Sang-sik was so surprised that he quickly pressed Ma-tan's head down to apologize to the VIP guest. He didn't expect Ma-tan to dare to lie in front of the partner. That night, Sang-sik took Ma-tan to a motel. Ma-tan had never stayed in such a small motel before, so he was very curious. He asked the boss which floor the gym was on. The boss was confused, thinking that Ma-tan wanted to cause trouble. Ma-tan could only take out his bank card to pay. The boss wanted to go crazy. It was just a small amount of change, but Ma-tan wanted to swipe the card. The boss swiped the card to pay and told Ma-tan that the card was locked. It turned out that his family had really cut off all support. Sang-sik felt more and more that Ma-tan was unusual. Sang-sik told Ma-tan that if he needed help, just tell him. After Sang-sik and Ma-tan returned from their business trip, the two of them were still able to attend their colleague's appointment. Ma-tan kept staring at Kang-mi. This time, no matter what, he couldn't let her drink alcohol. Kang-mi smiled and told him not to worry, because this time she would only drink water and not touch a drop of alcohol. When the party was almost over, Ma-tan suddenly discovered that his colleague's actions meant that Kang-mi was drinking alcohol. At this moment, she pulled the doorknob. Then Kang-mi pressed pause and grabbed the microphone. Ma-tan panicked and wanted to stop her. Unexpectedly, the two people sitting next to him kept clinging to him. No matter how Ma-tan struggled, he couldn't escape. Drunk Kang-mi shouted to everyone that today she had a secret that she had to tell. She said that she had finished a plate of chicken noodles outside before coming here. Ma-tan had just breathed a sigh of relief when Kang-mi suddenly continued saying that Ma-tan had never eaten chicken gizzards before. Ma-tan panicked and reached for the remote and deliberately turned up the volume to create noise, but couldn't stop Kang-mi from continuing. She said that he was the heir to the Power Group. Ma-tan was in utter despair. At this moment, all his colleagues turned to look at him. They couldn't believe it. Deputy Head of Department Y also sat up and asked who Ma-tan was. At this moment, Sang-sik told a few stories about his business trip. Ma-tan said that he had a personal driver and that he even knew VIP customers from his partner, but it was all bullshit. This made all his colleagues laugh out loud. Ma-tan didn't know whether to be happy or sad. He thought he had been exposed, but these people didn't believe him. At this moment, Ma-tan looked at Kang-mi. Now, Ma-tan finally understood. No wonder his heart always beat fast when he was with Kang-mi. It turned out that it was all because of the pressure she created. Ma-tan was always on guard. Ma-tan waited until Kang-mi woke up and asked her if she was really drunk or if she was following his father's instructions. What was her call the day before about power and money? Kang-mi was confused because she was talking about her mosquito racket that day. Ma-tan was confused, so he deliberately changed the subject. He blamed her for putting too much pressure on him. Kang-mi was surprised. Ma-tan was also a bit confused. He didn't say anything and continued to probe. Suddenly, the two of them stood still. It took a long time for Kang-mi to react. Kang-mi slapped Ma-tan. Ma-tan touched his face and looked at Kang-mi with an incredulous expression. Ma-tan didn't understand what this heartbreaking feeling was. At this time, Sang-sik and Na-rae were showing affection to each other, but were seen by Aziz. Aziz even congratulated them on their rapid progress. Na-rae frantically explained that it was just a misunderstanding. That year, when she was in France, she liked to greet others like that. Aziz wondered and asked again, who would greet him while burying their heads so deeply? Na-rae was embarrassed, so she changed the subject. She said that her hand had been casted off, so she didn't need their care anymore. Na-rae sent the two of them home. Unexpectedly, Aziz smiled and said before leaving, didn't you greet him? If Na-rae's eyes could kill, Aziz would have died long ago, but he was still not satisfied. This greeting was different from Sang-sik's. Sang-sik quickly pushed Aziz away. At this time, Sang-sik was lying on the bed, but his mind was filled with the scene just now. The more Sang-sik thought about it, the more embarrassed he became. He couldn't hold it in anymore, so he sent a message to Na-rae, but Sang-sik didn't know what to say. If he confessed right away, it would be a bit abrupt. If he asked her what the kiss just now meant, he was afraid it would be a bit silly. After thinking for a while, Sang-sik decided to text her an apology. Na-rae had waited so long, but he only texted her 2 words. She angrily punched the air. On the other side, Sang-sik was preparing a clever confession. Unexpectedly, Na-rae angrily said that she had taken the wrong medicine. She even made him explain to Aziz. The next day, Sang-sik accidentally met Na-rae in front of the elevator. He felt like she was emitting a halo. Sang-sik was absent-mindedly thinking. Then he turned to look at Hae-young, whom he had light and he felt that she was very ordinary. In the meeting, everyone was discussing about product discounts for couples, but how to confirm whether they were really a couple or not. A colleague said that just kissing was enough. Sun-sik said that in this day and age, kissing doesn't prove that two people are a couple. He even deliberately asked Na-rae if that was true. Na-rae quickly nodded. Then she leaned back in her chair and said that in this day and age, even if they weren't a couple, they could still kiss. All the colleagues were confused, not knowing what happened to these two people. At this moment, Kanmi suddenly said that she had a friend who wanted to find a lover, and she wanted to introduce Sun-sik to her friend. Na-rae's reaction was extremely fierce. Na-rae quickly explained that she didn't want Kanmi's friend to waste too much time. Unexpectedly, Sun-sik said that he wanted to go. Sun-sik was about to go on a blind date as soon as he got off work. Na-rae finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She asked him if he really wanted to go. Sang-sik hesitated for a while, and then asked if Na-rae felt uncomfortable. She shyly denied it. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik immediately happily turned around and left, leaving Na-rae standing there, angry. Sang-sik had never been on a date before, so he was a bit awkward. He was about to take a sip of wine to relieve his tension when he suddenly saw Na-rae in his glass of wine. So Sang-sik threw the glass of wine straight into her face. He hurriedly took a tissue to wipe her face, making her understand that he thought she was ugly. Sang-sik couldn't take it anymore, so he told Na-rae directly that he couldn't do anything recently. Every time he opened his eyes, he saw her figure. He asked her if the kiss that day was just an accident. Unexpectedly, Na-rae got angry and said that he was the one who apologized first. Sang-sik had already said that, so what else could she say? He was stunned, then quickly explained that the reason he apologized was because it was his first kiss, so he was afraid that she would think he wasn't a good kisser. Na-rae saw that he was already an adult but had no experience in love. Sang-sik's expression became serious. Because Aziz had ruined it that day, Sang-sik felt that neither of them could truly confirm each other's feelings. The only way to be sure was to try again. Na-rae suddenly felt a little panicked, so she awkwardly changed the subject. Sang-sik didn't let Na-rae complain anymore. He took the initiative to approach and kiss her. In Korea, there is a legend that when the coldest girl in the company smiles, no matter how difficult project is, it will be successful. In order to make manager Sung smile, deputy head of department Y tried to make a scene. He suddenly bent down. All his colleagues burst out laughing, but manager Sung kept his cold face. Deputy head of department Y didn't know what to do to make her smile. Sang-sik pretended to go next to Na-rae. He deliberately revealed the couple watch on his hand. Unexpectedly, Na-rae's expression changed. She told him not to think too much because the two of them weren't a couple yet. Sang-sik said they had kissed twice already. Unexpectedly, Na-rae quickly covered his mouth. Turned out that Ma-tan was passing by. Ma-tan saw that the two of them were a bit shy, so he told them not to pay attention to him. So the two of them started using signals to talk to each other. Na-rae looked angry and said, "How can you guys just like that want to sign an exclusive contract? Her company has only had social cooperation with other companies for the past 5 years. It's hard to ask Na-rae to change now." Sang-sik hurriedly said that they had cooperated with each other twice already. The two of them glanced at Ma-tan standing behind them. Na-rae sighed and continued that about this part, the two companies still needed to negotiate further. Sang-sik heard that and immediately asked they could discuss it further tonight so that it would be better for future cooperation. Na-rae nodded and told Sang-sik to send her the time and location to discuss via email. Ma-tan stood behind them, confused. He looked at the two of them and felt that something was very strange. They really didn't seem like they were discussing work. Sang-sik looked at Ma-tan across from him and suddenly asked if Ma-tan had ever been in love. Ma-tan shook his head and then asked Sang-sik if he had a girlfriend. Sang-sik looked embarrassed and said that it was fine. Sang-sik told Ma-tan that when he meets someone who makes him smile just thinking about them, or even makes his heart beat faster when he sees them, then he will understand what love feels like. Ma-tan suddenly recalled the moment he moved things at the company this morning. Kanmi accidentally touched Ma-tan's hand, making his heart beat faster. Ma-tan asked Sang-sik if this was the feeling of love. Sang-sik quickly nodded and told Ma-tan to treat the girl who made him feel that way, but Ma-tan said that he had someone he was engaged to. Of course, Sang-sik thought that Ma-tan was starting to brag again. That night, the colleagues gathered to drink. Sang-sik secretly called Na-rae out and said that he wanted to talk about the two of them. Na-rae told Sang-sik that her thoughts were very simple. She didn't want to be someone else's substitute, so she hoped that the two of them would calm down to make sure that this wasn't because they were lonely for too long and had illusions about each other. When leaving the karaoke bar, Sang-sik suddenly remembered that he had forgotten his documents at company. Na-rae was preparing to go home alone when Sang-sik said that he didn't dare to go to the company at night. Na-rae was very helpless. She didn't expect that he was this old and still afraid of the dark. Sang-sik said that without her, what would he do? Both of them felt that there was something hidden in their words. Na-rae quickly said that she wasn't an easy girl. Unexpectedly, he looked at her without blinking. Then, he picked up the lip balm and applied it to his lips. Na-rae swallowed and they they passionately rushed into each other. Because the desk was small, Na-rae pushed San-sik to another place, and then they continued to rush into each other. The office files were scattered all over the floor. In a moment, the small room could no longer hold two people. They continued to rush into the meeting room. The two people were so intimate that there was no room left. At this moment, two bewildered heads popped up from under the table. They looked at San-sik and Na-rae hugging each other and were very confused. Deputy Head of Department Y staggered forward. Sang-sik and Na-rae were both extremely panicked. They thought they had been discovered. Unexpectedly, Deputy Head of Department Y drunkenly asked if they were fighting. Deputy Head of Department Y looked at Sang-sik and said that Na-rae was his senior after all, so he had to be a little more tolerant. Sang-sik nodded repeatedly, but Manager Ma stood up and asked what happened to Sang-sik's lips. Na-rae was extremely embarrassed. Deputy Head of Department Y thought that Sang-sik had been beaten by Na-rae, so he pulled the two of them to sit down and poured a glass of wine, telling them to make up. Sang-sik immediately drained his glass and said that the two of them would absolutely not fight again in the future. Manager Ma suddenly sat up and said clearly that they had kissed. Na-rae pushed Manager Ma down on the table to stop him from continuing. The next day, Sang-sik and Na-rae squeezed into the elevator. Seeing that there were many people, he suddenly had a bad idea. Sang-sik felt the warmth from the hand and smiled happily. His fingers couldn't help but poke it, but Sang-sik turned his head and found that it was the department head's hand. Sang-sik was embarrassed and said that the department head's hand was a bit cold, so he needed to take care of himself. To prevent awkward situations like this from happening again, Sang-sik designed a set of signals specifically for the two of them. Blinking twice meant liking each other, blinking 3 times meant going to meet each other, and blinking left and right continuously meant that it was enough. Sang-sik felt that he was very smart, so his colleagues definitely wouldn't be able to find out. So the two of them kept winking at each other during work hours, making their colleagues think something was wrong with them. The two of them had to use the excuse that the office was a bit dry recently to avoid them. At this time, Kan-mi was getting the files in the cabinet when she suddenly discovered that the bottle of wine that was placed there earlier had disappeared. Deputy Head of Department Y was the first to speak up and chased Kan-mi back to her seat because it was working hours and she was asking random questions. Unexpectedly, Manager Sung knew at a glance that something was wrong. Manager Sung suspected that Deputy Head of Department Y was the one who stole it. Deputy Head of Department Y quickly denied it. Manager Sung glanced over and saw that Na-rae seemed panicked, so he suspected her. Na-rae also quickly stood up to deny it, but Manager Sung calmly said it was okay. Just check the surveillance camera and you'll know right away. Na-rae smiled awkwardly and wondered if someone had really installed a surveillance camera in the office. Manager Sung pointed to the camera. At this moment, half of the people in the office were confused. No one wanted to have their surveillance camera checked, but Manager Sung didn't care. She told Kan-mi to call the security department to extract the surveillance camera. Na-jae panicked and kicked her high heels aside. Even Kan-mi had to be stopped by Na-rae. Before everyone's surprised eyes, San-sik snatched the phone from Kan-mi's hand. Then he put on his sunglasses and admitted that he was the one who stole the wine. Yesterday after the meal, San-sik returned to the company and secretly took out some wine to drink. Then Sang-sik pulled down his glasses and signaled Na-rae to scold him. Na-rae looked miserable and didn't want to, but Sang-sik still signaled Na-rae to continue. So Na-rae started scolding Sang-sik badly. Everyone gathered around to beat him up. Sang-sik endured the pain and blinked at Na-rae twice. Then Sang-sik walked into the office with a serious expression and told Na-rae that he had finished the data. Na-rae opened it and saw that it was a weekend date plan for the two of them. On the second page, Sang-sik had diligently written down the issues that needed to be taken care of in a relationship. In order to avoid anyone suspecting them, they would thoroughly implement a guerrilla strategy. From today on, they would begin this tense and exciting office romance. Matan had just received his salary, but the money in his account kept being deducted. Matan was startled, thinking that there was a thief. He hadn't done anything yet, and his salary had disappeared. Manager Ma walked by and laughed heartily, saying that this was too normal for people who worked for them. Once the salary was received, it would be automatically transferred to the service providers and credit cards, and in the end, there would be nothing left. Matan was now cornered, so he started to calculate. His salary was 2.5 million won. He had to spend at least 7.5 million won every month. Kangni almost fainted looking at the bill. Matan's rent alone cost 3 million won. Luckily, he was from a rich family, otherwise she definitely wouldn't have enough money to live on. Matan frowned, thinking that his father wouldn't support him anymore, so he didn't know how to live in the future. Matan had to ask Kangmi for help. She removed a zero from each of his spending items. Matan didn't expect that to be enough to live on. Kangmi told him that if office workers wanted to earn more money, overtime was indispensable. Matan nodded and remembered, so he went to find Deputy Head of Department Y and asked him to pay him overtime and travel travel allowance. Deputy head of Department Y rolled his eyes, thinking that Ma-tan was crazy. Kan-mi had to find another way. She opened a shopping website and instructed Ma-tan to remember to click on the price from low to high when buying things. Ma-tan was extremely surprised. He didn't expect so many things to be so cheap. Kan-mi also told her seniors that if they didn't need coupons, Ma-tan had to remember to ask for them all so she could exchange them for free coffee. If you have free time, you can walk a little more. There are many apps that can exchange steps for cash or coupons, and the most important thing is to eat frugally. Bringing your own food to work can save you a lot more money. At this time, the secretary told Ma-tan that his father wanted him to go home this week. Ma-tan was about to refuse when he suddenly thought of something. When Ma-tan got home, he saw that his father was serious. His father said that he was like his mother, watching romantic movies all day and fantasizing about falling in love with a poor but beautiful girl with a gentle but strong and sweet personality. Ma-tan's mind immediately showed Kan-mi's appearance. Maybe he had met someone like that. Ma-tan asked his father, "Is that not okay?" Of course his father did not agree. His father also said that he already had a fiancée. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Na-young suddenly appeared and happily greeted Ma-tan. Ma-tan's father asked him to marry Na-young immediately, or he had to return to the power group immediately. But Ma-tan didn't want to choose either. He had just turned around to leave when the dishes started to be served in the kitchen. Ma-tan swallowed his saliva because he was hungry, so he had to make an excuse that he didn't want to be rude, so he stayed to eat with Na-young. At the dining table, Ma-tan had only eaten a few bites when his mother told the servant to take the dishes down and bring up dessert. Ma-tan was shocked and thought that it was such a waste. He said he had brought boxes to wrap the food. Unexpectedly, his mother thought that he had just received his salary and bought her a gift. Ma-tan was a bit embarrassed, so he could only give the boxes to his mother. Ma-tan's mother was very touched. She felt that her son had grown up. When Na-young left, she saw Ma-tan walking out of the house and thought that she had to go to Gauss to warn that ignorant girl. At this time, Ma-tan looked at his house door and silently thanked his father for having a free meal today. Ma-tan held the clothes and prepared to sell them for money. Unexpectedly, when he met the buyer, he discovered that it was the thug that Kan-mi had beaten up the last time. As soon as he saw the two of them, he immediately called for more people. Kan-mi didn't mind beating them up again. Ma-tan wanted to run away. He agreed to earn some money on the step counting app. Because Ma-tan had no money, he also had no place to stay. He had to become Aziz's roommate. At this time, Na-young came to visit Ma-tan. She saw the two of them wearing the same clothes, so she thought it was their couple's clothes. But Ma-tan didn't care. He told her to watch less deviant movies. Na-young asked Ma-tan if the person he liked was Kan-mi. Ma-tan hurriedly asked her what she said to Kan-mi. Unexpectedly, Na-young smiled and said that Kan-mi was very reasonable. Na-young gave Kan-mi some money and she agreed to go immediately. Ma-tan started to speculate. Then Ma-tan said that if anything happened to Kan-mi, he would not forgive Na-young. Then Ma-tan frantically went looking for Kan-mi. He hoped nothing would happen to her. Finally, Ma-tan ran to the gym. There, Ma-tan also saw Kan-mi. He wanted to hug her but he held back. Ma-tan bowed his head and apologized to Kan-mi, but he mistook the person. Ma-tan worriedly looked at Kan-mi and asked if Na-young did anything to her. Kan-mi was confused and did not understand what was going on. Kan-mi thought Na-young was kind because Na-young gave her some vitamins. When she got home, Kan-mi took out the vitamins and asked Ma-tan if she wanted to take them. Unexpectedly, she saw that they were stuffed full of money. Kan-mi now understood what Na-young was implying. Then, Kan-mi would return this money to her, but Kan-mi wanted to take a picture because she had never seen so much money before. Ma-tan looked at Kan-mi seriously, so she reluctantly put the money on the table. Kan-mi told Ma-tan to clearly explain to Na-young that they had nothing to do with each other. Unexpectedly, Ma-tan's expression changed. He didn't want to explain anything. Ma-tan asked Kan-mi if she remembered the light downstairs. Kan-mi absent-mindedly recalled a few days ago when she was about to go home at night and the light suddenly turned on. Ma-tan happily thought that Kan-mi would be happy if she didn't have to go home in the dark anymore. Unexpectedly, Kan-mi thought that someone was crazy and installed a light as bright as the one in the stadium in the residential area. Kan-mi suddenly woke up and it turned out that Ma-tan installed it. She misunderstood that he wanted to blind her with a bright light. Ma-tan shook his head and denied it. Kan-mi looked at Ma-tan's eyes filled with love and said she understood. It turned out that he wanted to prevent bad people from bothering others. Ma-tan helplessly decided to speak up. He admitted that he liked her. Kan-mi answered without hesitation that she didn't like him. Ma-tan was stunned and quickly asked the reason. He thought that it was because of his status that made her feel pressure, but she shook her head and denied it because Ma-tan simply wasn't her type. Kan-mi liked the type like Kim Jong-kook. Ma-tan hugged the pile of money in his hands and cried until he was shaking. The car arrived in front of the house. The driver told him that the total cost was 33,000 won. Ma-tan cried even louder. He felt that nothing would go smoothly. At this time, Ma-tan looked at Kim Jong-kook's picture and started to work out like crazy. Ma Matan was determined to become like him. It was just 8-pack abs. Matan would definitely be able to do it. Aziz shook his head in dismay as he saw Matan's unusual behavior. The next day, Kanmi shyly asked Matan if she had heard him yesterday. Matan looked serious and said that she could rest assured that he would only focus on work in the future. Kanmi breathed a sigh of relief. Kanmi was about to pour water when Matan rolled up his sleeves. Kanmi was a little surprised and asked Matan if he was hot, but he clenched his fists to show it. Kanmi looked helplessly at the man in front of her. She had nothing more to say to him. The next day, Matan put the last of his money into the vending machine. Unexpectedly, as soon as he pressed the button, the machine did not react at all. He looked closely and saw that the price had increased. Matan thought seriously that since his father locked his credit card, he understood the feelings of people who ran out of money before the end of the month. Matan pushed the chair, blocking his way out, and rushed in front of Deputy Head of Department to ask him why the price had increased. This is making things difficult for the poor. Deputy Head of Department Y didn't understand what was going on. His colleagues stepped forward one by one to stop him, but Matan still expressed all the grievances in his heart. Kanmi didn't think that someone as rich as Matan could also understand this principle. The next day, Matan went to work and was stopped by Deputy Head of Department Y. Matan thought that Deputy Head of Department Y was still angry about yesterday. Unexpectedly, Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly said that they were bad people. Where did they go last night without inviting him? Then Deputy Head of Department Y started acting spoiled with everyone, making Kanmi nauseous, and immediately ran to the bathroom. At this time, Manager Ma explained that the head of the marketing department was suddenly transferred to another branch, so Deputy Head of Department Y was likely to be promoted, and this promotion evaluation would largely be based on the evaluation of the employees, so Deputy Head of Department Y wanted everyone to give him high marks. The person who had always been stingy with him invited the whole department to have coffee today. Deputy Head of Department took out his credit card and told Matan that he could order whatever he wanted to eat and drink. Unexpectedly, Matan spent it freely. Deputy Head of Department looked at Matan and tried to hold back. He thought that just a few cups of coffee cost a lot of money. Matan also bought lunch, which made Deputy Head of Department Y furious, but he still had to endure it. At lunchtime, Nare thoughtfully prepared a love lunch for Sang-si. The two of them secretly hid in a corner. They were about to enjoy their happy moments when Matan and Kangmi also passed by, so the four of them had to sit down and eat together. As soon as they opened the lunchbox, Kangmi was a bit confused because the food looked a bit strange, but Sang-sik picked up the strange object and praised it as delicious. Matan said that he had 2 sandwiches so he could share one with Sang-sik. Sang-sik was very touched. He was about to pick up the sandwich when he felt a murderous aura from Nare. Sang-sik quickly smiled and refused Matan, saying that he had eaten enough rice and didn't need a sandwich. Deputy Head of Department Y watched everyone walking around the office. The promotion evaluation deadline was until the end of work today. He stared at his watch and was pleased. In just a few seconds, these employees would be taught a lesson by him. Finally, the clock had passed 6 o'clock. Deputy Head of Department stood up and stood in the middle of the office. He vented his frustrations on everyone over the past few days. Deputy Head of Department Y stood on the table and listed each person's faults. Manager Ma panicked and reminded everyone that they could still change their evaluations before 6:30 p.m. Deputy Head of Department Y was stunned. At this moment, all the colleagues started typing on their keyboards at the same time. Deputy Head of Department Y trembled as he told everyone that he was just joking. A few days later, there was a personnel change announcement. Deputy Head of Department Y looked closely at his phone, and sure enough, the one who was promoted was not him. It turned out that this promotion was only based on academic qualifications. He failed the resume round. Deputy Head of Department Y rolled on the ground in pain. He was not promoted and lost money. Matan looked at Kim Jong-kook's photo and sat there thinking and researching what attracted women to Kim Jong-kook. At this moment, Kanmi accidentally got into trouble. Matan hurriedly helped her carry things into the meeting room. He deliberately acted strong. He kept lifting the pile of documents up and down like he was pushing weights. Kanmi frowned at the man who was acting in front of her, and she had to say that he liked Kim Jong-kook not because he was strong. Kanmi asked Matan if he was imitating Kim Jong-kook. Matan suddenly laughed and denied. Kanmi shivered and said that she didn't like Kim Jong-kook's smile either. At this moment, Sang-sik called Matan out. He immediately put down the box of documents and then sang Kim Jong-kook's song. Kanmi continued to say that she didn't like Kim Jong-kook's voice. This made Matan feel extremely embarrassed. In the dark interrogation room, Sang-sik seriously asked Matan if he was the son of President Baip of Power Group. Matan didn't panic at all and immediately denied it, but Sang-sik got excited and told Matan to stop pretending. Matan was a spy for Power Group. It turned out that their department's latest project had been announced by Power Group in advance. This proved that there must be a spy inside. Sang-sik thought that person was Matan because Matan followed him all all day. Matan didn't understand what was going on. He looked at Sang-sik seriously and said that since they had worked together for so long, Sang-sik must know that he wasn't that kind of person. Then Matan stood up and told Sang-sik to trust him. Sang-sik seemed to be moved. He hugged Matan. Matan also endured the discomfort. He quietly reached out and placed his hand on Sang-sik's back. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik's expression suddenly changed. He told Matan not to do anything bad to him. Since there was no convincing evidence, Sang-sik decided to temporarily let Matan go. At this moment, the German VIP guest who had recognized Matan came to find Matan. It turned out that he had seen an article related to this, so the VIP guest also suspected Matan of being a spy for the power group. Matan quickly denied it and said that a senior at the company was also suspecting him, which gave him a headache. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik suddenly appeared. Matan was shocked because Sang-sik understood German, so he understood everything Matan said on their last business trip. As a result, Sang-sik took out the translation software. Sang-sik called Matan aside and said that he didn't want to talk much. Whether Matan was a spy or not, leaving Gauss now was the best choice. Sang-sik looked sad. They struggled with this hard life, but for Matan, it was just an experience. Matan quickly grabbed Sang-sik's hand and said that he was just earning money to support himself. Matan definitely didn't think this was just a game. Matan hoped that Sang-sik could keep his secret. At this time, even if Matan wasn't a spy, if others found out, he would definitely be in trouble. Sang-sik nodded as if he agreed. At this moment, the elevator door opened. Kami saw Matan inside and hesitated for a few seconds. Then she still decided to step in. Kami asked if Matan was still imitating Kim Jong-kook. Matan hugged her head and said of course. Kami's eyelids twitched. Kami looked at Matan seriously and said that the reason she liked Kim Jong-kook was not because of anything else, but because he was a celebrity, a main member of a TV show, a person who did not exist in real life. Matan lowered his head, feeling a sense of loss. It seemed that he understood. The next day, Kami couldn't find a document, so she asked Matan if he had seen it. Unexpectedly, he went straight to her, grabbed her hand and said he had left it here. Kami was confused. She was about to take the document when he suddenly let go. He didn't know whether to apologize or confess. Kami finally confirmed that Matan was crazy. She didn't want to talk to him anymore, but Matan told Kami to worship him. Kami grabbed Matan's sleeve and pushed him hard against the refrigerator. Matan opened his eyes wide, his heart pounding as if he had just run. Kami looked at Matan seriously and said that no matter what he did, she would not be moved. Kami could not love someone with as many secrets as him. The two of them were not compatible, so Matan summoned all the colleagues in the room. There was a truth that everyone had to know. He frankly admitted that he was the son of President Beck of Power Group. The colleagues were all stunned. Unexpectedly, Deputy Head of Department Y later said that he was the Emperor. Matan felt extremely hurt. Matan looked at Kanmi and asked her to help him explain the truth, so Kanmi took out Matan's family photo. Only then did the colleagues begin to believe him. Deputy Head of Department Y angrily asked why Matan said he lived in a small room. Actually, for Matan, that 800 square meter house was really small. Manager Sung felt a bit strange. Why did Matan suddenly confess this? At this time, Matan looked at Kanmi. He did not want to hide the secret that he liked her anymore. At night, Kanmi drank one bottle after another. Then Kanmi asked Matan, who was sitting across from her, if he could stay up all night tonight. Matan was a little embarrassed, thinking she wanted to be intimate with him. Kanmi said seriously that it might hurt a little. She will start now. Matan nodded urgently. Unexpectedly, Kanmi started to comment on Matan. She said that he was the type of person she would never like. Not only was he her parents' favorite son, but he also didn't know how to empathize and was also a clean freak. Kanmi became more and more aggressive as she spoke. Matan was constantly scolded. He couldn't even hide anymore. Matan had no choice to sit and listen to the scolding all night long. The next day, Matan went to work and saw a bouquet of flowers on his desk. He picked up a card and read it. The person on the card called him Daddy. Matan didn't understand what was going on. He didn't know who would suddenly call him that. Matan quickly said he wanted to go to the bathroom, so a colleague escorted him there. It turned out that the colleague accidentally heard Matan calling and saying that he wanted to bring someone to Power Group. Who would miss this opportunity to follow the rich young master? So the colleague started to show off. Manager Ma and the others took turns trying to please Matan. Only Deputy Head of Department Y did not do so. Seeing the other colleagues flattering Matan, he could not help but start cursing. Matan felt uncomfortable. He did not think things would turn out like this. At this time, the secretary asked Matan if he had decided that he would bring AI to Power Group. Matan had just nodded when Kanmi came over, dressed beautifully. Matan was extremely surprised. Kanmi greeted him gently, then she waved her little hand at him. Kanmi's heart was filled with joy. She thought that seeing her like this, he would probably give up. Unexpectedly, Matan's face turned red at this moment. The next day, Matan once again summoned all the colleagues. He was about to make an important announcement. Manager Ma and the others were very nervous. They wondered if he would take everyone away. Unexpectedly, Matan said that he would stay in the house. Kami was so angry that she banged the table and stood up. She didn't understand why they had to torture each other like this. Why did Matan want to stay because of her? But Matan said that the reason wasn't because of Kami, but she still didn't believe it. In order to make Matan abandon her, Kami didn't hesitate to defame herself. She said that she didn't brush her teeth every day and only wipe them with a towel. She even took a proper bath during Tet. Matan quietly said that Kami misunderstood. Then he took out his tablet. Because President Beck was arrested for corruption, Matan could only stay in Gauss for the time being. Kami shook her hair, her hands shaking. She quickly hid in the bathroom. The colleagues guessed that Kami was so embarrassed that she ran away. Matan hurriedly chased after Kami. Seeing Kami sitting on the ground, Matan also quietly sat down next to her. Matan said that he understood what she meant. From today onwards, they will start over as friends. A few months later, Matan suddenly hugged Kami from behind. As soon as Kami relaxed, Matan turned his back immediately. Kami was caught off guard and was a bit panicked, but Matan just smiled and said that they should be good friends. Then Matan grabbed Kami's hand. Matan didn't wait for Kami to say anything. He immediately let go of her hand. Then he said sorry to her and turned away. Kami touched her red face. She felt it was very hot. Just like that, Matan won Kami's heart. Sansik was taking off the clothes Nare bought for him when he turned his back and wanted to leave. Nare hugged Sansik and desperately held him back. Unexpectedly, Nare's parents suddenly appeared. Nare wanted to explain to her mother, but she didn't know what to say. At this time, the four of them sat at the table. Sansik froze like a statue. He clearly came to say goodbye, but he didn't expect to meet his parents. Nare explained to her parents that Sansik was a bit hot just now, so he took off his shirt and they didn't do anything bad. Unexpectedly, Nare's mother asked Sangsik if the mole on Nare's face was the same as hers. Sangsik answered yes. She then asked if the mole on Nare's butt was also the same as hers. Sangsik also answered yes. This unexpected trap caught Sangsik off guard. Nare was startled and accidentally let the food get on her clothes. She quickly made an excuse to run into the bathroom. At this time, Nare's father told Sansik not to be nervous and just eat naturally. Sansik had just breathed a sigh of relief when suddenly Nare started vomiting in the bathroom. Nare saw that the vegetable stuck in her tooth was not coming off. Not long after, she returned to the dining table. Nare wondered why the three people were looking at her with strange eyes. Her father asked why Nare felt nauseous. She was a little embarrassed and said that she could not stop. Sangsik reacted quickly and immediately knelt down. He said that he would take responsibility. Then, Sangsik held Nare's hand and told her to trust him. He would work hard to earn money to buy milk. Nare wondered what was going on. Unexpectedly, both Nare's father and mother agreed afterwards. She felt that the three people were talking about something completely different. At this moment, Aziz suddenly called. Nare told Sangsik that Aziz was looking for him. Her father thought that the baby was kicking in her belly. Her mother thought that the two of them had already given the baby a name at home and even gave it a name that sounded quite Western. Nare's father was very happy. He even thought of naming his child Young Men. Nare didn't understand why they had already reached the naming stage. It turned out that not long ago, a colleague suddenly watched a video extracted from a surveillance camera. The two of them were afraid that the bad things they did in the office would be exposed, so they were extremely panicked. Deputy head of department Y felt a bit strange because the two of them kept blocking the screen. While Sansik and Nare were still fiercely resisting, they suddenly saw Manager Ma and Manager Sung kissing. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that the biggest secret in the office would be this. Sansik also felt very tired because of the camera incident, so he wanted to break up with Nare. Unexpectedly, Nare's parents suddenly came to visit, giving the two of them a chance to make up. Nare had just come home from work. She opened the door and looked down at the floor and saw a candle and a note. Nare walked along the candles and saw the note. The last love said that there was more outside the door. Nare hurriedly went out and found that there were also notes outside. Each note recorded the things that had happened between the two of them in this apartment. Nare was a little touched. She vaguely guessed what Sansik wanted to do. Nare went to Sansik's door and pushed the door open with all her might, but she saw Aziz instead. Aziz was also surprised that she had arrived so quickly. He hurriedly prepared to tell Sansik, but before Aziz could act, Nare stopped him. Sansik was a little panicked because he had not finished preparing, but Nare did not care. She happily sat down and then extended her hand to Sansik. Although it seems a bit rushed, as long as both people feel happy, that's enough. After many ups and downs, Matan decided to stay in Gauss. This is where he lives and does many meaningful things. If he returns to power, he will also bring his colleagues with him, because not only does Matan love his colleagues, but there is also the girl he loves here. The movie Love Story in Gauss ends here. Thank you everyone for watching. Goodbye, and see you again.